In a paper mill, the decal is the usable width of your paper machine. The moment several orders with different real widths run together, filling that width completely becomes hard. Manual, spreadsheet-driven planning makes it harder still. You depend on one experienced person, you have limited visibility of real inventory, and finding the best combination is largely guesswork. The result is higher trim, poor decal utilization, production delays, and every centimeter you trim away is finished paper you already paid to make. Let me walk through the problems we see most often on a mill floor, because they are remarkably consistent from one plant to the next. The biggest is dependency on third-party optimization software or on a spreadsheet somebody built years ago. Either way, it sits outside your ERP. That creates a silo. Your sales orders live in one system, and your decal planning happens in another, with people retyping numbers between the two. So the order is entered in one place and optimized somewhere else, and nothing reconciles automatically. Then there is person dependency. If the one planner who understands that spreadsheet does not come in, decal planning stalls that day. And every extra centimeter of trim is material wastage that goes straight out as waste paper, quietly eroding the profit on an order you have already won. It is also slow. Manual or Excel-based decal optimization takes hours a planner does not have, and it gets harder with every extra order at every extra width. There is no real-time view of the reels already sitting in your finished goods store, so you plan as though the warehouse were empty, and you produce reels you already had on the floor. That becomes excess inventory, cash tied up in reels nobody ordered. Add to that no clear view of how much jumbo stock is actually available, and deliveries start slipping. Every one of those problems compounds into the same business result: thinner margin and unhappy customers. So today we are showcasing how Deckle Optimization works inside Samadhan Paper ERP, built on Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central, so that selling and planning finally live in one system. This is the production manager's dashboard, and it is fully customizable to the way your plant actually runs. These blue tiles are called queues. Every number on them is live, updated straight from your transactions, and every one is a hyperlink. Click a number, and you drill straight into the documents behind it, with no report to run. The same dashboard gives your team one-click access to the reports they use in their day-to-day work. Now, Deckle Optimization always begins with demand, so it begins with the sales order. I have created one already. So we go to the sales order list and open that order to see how demand is captured. On the General tab, we capture the customer details. Alongside it, you have invoice details and shipping and billing information. So if a customer takes delivery at one address and is invoiced at another, you define both here. Then there is foreign trade and tax information and payment details such as prepayment percentage, all pulled from that customer's master record. Across the other tabs, you will find tax information, the customer's dashboard, customer details, sales line details, and attachments. So any document tied to this order, a purchase order or a specification, is stored against it and travels with it. There is also item availability and invoice details. The point is that once you select the customer, everything you would otherwise retype is already filled in. It is fetched automatically from the masters, which removes an entire class of typing errors before they can happen. Back on the General tab, we set the requested delivery date. That date is the commitment between you and your customer, and it matters here because decal planning will filter on it later. Then we define the order tolerance percentage, and in the paper industry, that one field is genuinely important. Now to the lines, where we define what is being made. The items are already entered here, but let me show you how they are built up, because the system does most of the work. First, we select the type, which is item. Then we choose the item category, and from there the specification builds itself. From that category, the system brings in the BF, the bursting factor, the strength grade of the paper. Then we set the GSM, the grams per square meter, and the shade. Once those are defined, the system fetches the item number itself, so nobody hunts for a product code. Then the unit of measurement. The standard is centimeters, but you can work in inches or millimeters. And this matters more than it might sound, because real widths are quoted differently in different markets. If I enter the real width in centimeters, the system keeps it in centimeters. Whatever unit your customer buys in, your planner keeps working in the single unit your machine is set up for. The conversion happens underneath, consistently, so a width quoted in one unit can never be planned in another by mistake. That detail removes a classic and expensive source of error. If I select inches, the system converts the real width from centimeters into inches. Select millimeters, and it converts from millimeters back into centimeters. Here we will work in centimeters. Then we define the reel's outer diameter, which determines how much paper actually fits onto each reel. That diameter is a real constraint on the machine, not a preference, so capturing it here keeps the whole plan physically achievable. So we define the outer diameter, and then the customer's order quantity. You can enter that quantity in two ways, and the flexibility matters because customers order differently, either as a quantity by weight or as a number of reels. If you enter the quantity in tons, the system calculates how many reels that comes to. And if you enter the number of reels, it calculates the quantity in metric tons. Either way, you get both figures. The system then derives the rest for you. Weight per reel, the number of reels still outstanding, and the reels covered by order tolerance, all without a calculator. So if a planner needs to know how many reels are still outstanding against this particular order, they simply open the sales order and read the outstanding figure directly. No spreadsheet, no phone call down to the shop floor. The number is live. Here is the outstanding quantity, then the total quantity, and the unit price. That price comes from the price master, based on the agreement already in place with that customer, so nobody is pricing an order from memory. Below that you have the GST and tax details. Once everything is defined, we click Release, and the document is released and ready for planning. Now we create the Deckle Optimization itself. We go to the Deckle Optimization list and click New. The first thing we define is the machine, because every constraint that follows comes from the machine you are going to run this on. As soon as we select it from the machine master, that machine's decal size is pulled in automatically. This figure is the full usable width you have to fill. Then we set the minimum and maximum decal size. From those two numbers, the system calculates the maximum wastage allowed. It is simply the maximum decal size minus the minimum. In other words, you are telling the system how much trim you are willing to tolerate before a combination stops being acceptable. It is a business rule in centimeters. That rule does a great deal of work, because the system will only build combinations that stay under your maximum wastage. If a set exceeds it, the system will not let you publish it. So an uneconomical cutting plan cannot reach the shop floor. Next, we select the jumbo item number, the parent reel this schedule is cut from. We choose the jumbo item category. The BF comes across from that category. Then we select the GSM and the shade. With those defined, the jumbo item number is fetched automatically. The same logic you saw on the sales order, so the demand and the plan always describe the identical specification. Then we set the document date. And if you remember the delivery date we agreed when we created the sales order, here we apply it as a filter. You can also filter on a specific reel outer diameter if there is a particular diameter you want to optimize on its own. And you can choose the optimization unit of measurement. Here, we select centimeters. Now, why do we define a delivery date window and the jumbo details at all? Because when the system generates demand, it uses them to filter down to exactly the orders that belong in this run. So in this scenario, the system will fetch every sales order for 18BF, 100 GSM, natural shade, with a delivery date between the 13th and the 27th of August. Nothing else. You are optimizing one grade, on one machine, for one delivery window, which is how a paper machine is actually scheduled. The filter is doing the thinking a planner used to do by hand. With that defined, we click Get Sales Orders. In one click, the system fetches every matching order line onto the schedule. And here they are, multiple sales orders, with their order quantities and their real widths, together in a single planning screen for the first time. Alongside each line, the system shows the finished goods stock, both in kilograms and in rolls. This is the visibility that was missing before. If a reel of that exact width is already sitting in your warehouse, you can see it right here on the Deckle Optimization line, before you plan to make another one. Then we select which widths we actually want to produce from this run. So we can select and deselect individual sales order lines, keeping full control over what goes into this schedule. And for each one, the system shows two figures side by side, the number of reels outstanding and the number of reels to plan right now. Those two numbers are deliberately kept separate, and this is where the planner's judgment comes back in. Outstanding is what the customer is owed. Reels to plan is what you choose to make on this particular jumbo, based on your machine capacity, on which customer is most urgent, and on what you already hold in stock. You have complete flexibility to change the number of reels to plan on any line. The system is not taking the decision away from you. It is doing the arithmetic, enforcing the physical limits, and leaving the commercial call exactly where it belongs. So I will select these orders and define the number of reels to plan against each. As soon as I change that number, watch the expected plan weight update alongside it. The system recalculates it automatically, so you always see the tonnage implication of a planning decision as you make it. And these are the order tolerance figures, carried straight through from the sales order. From that tolerance, the system works out how many extra reels you are permitted to produce for better Deckle utilization. That is a genuinely useful lever, because a few tolerance reels can be exactly what closes the gap on an otherwise wasteful combination. And if you want to add a reel tolerance here, you can, and the system recalculates. Then you have the sales order level details, reel width, weight per reel, and the utilization the system reports back once it has run. Now we come to the heart of it. We click Generate Set, Option 1, or Generate Set, Option 2. These are two optimization algorithms that run in the background and build the cutting combinations for you. Having two of them matters, because no single algorithm wins on every order mix. You can run both and simply keep whichever gives the better Deckle efficiency on this particular set of orders. So we click Generate Set, Option 1. Within a second, the system has built a complete set of combinations. To see them, we go into the Set Details, where the cutting plan is laid out. This is the General section, and below it the Deckle combinations. Starting with the General Details, the unit of measurement, the maximum and minimum Deckle size, the total number of sets optimized, and the scheduled jumbo weight. That last figure answers a question every mill asks. To produce these reels, how much jumbo do I actually need? That is your raw material requirement, calculated for you before you commit to anything. Then the total number of reels, the total number of sets, the total scheduled weight, and the Deckle efficiency percentage. Deckle efficiency is the number to watch. It tells you how much of your machine width is producing saleable paper rather than trim. On this run, it is over 95%. Now, in the Deckle combination section, you can see the individual sets the algorithm has built. For each one, the number of reels, the number of sets, the total width, the trim, and the Deckle efficiency percentage. The relationship is simple. The lower the trim, the higher the Deckle efficiency, and the more of that jumbo you actually sell. Then set weight, and the sequence columns marked FS, MS, and BS. Those let you trace which part of the jumbo each reel was cut from. FS is front side, MS is middle side, and BS is back side. That traceability matters when a customer raises a quality query. Then the remaining reels. Here you can see the excluded ones. Look at these 4 rows. They are not excluded. Why? Because their trim has not exceeded the maximum trim you allowed. My maximum trim here is 31. So anything from 0 up to 31, the system keeps. The moment a set's trim goes past 31, the system excludes it automatically. You never have to police that by eye. The rule you set at the start is enforced on every single combination. These columns are the individual cuts. Now, what do we do when a set's trim is too high and it has been excluded? We do not simply discard it. We select that particular set and click Add Reel to bring the trim back down. The system tells you the maximum you can add. Here, up to 4 manual reels. So the planner has a way to add reels deliberately to close the gap and pull the trim down. The planner can define that reel width manually or take it directly from an existing sales order. So the reel you add to soak up trim can be a reel a customer is genuinely waiting for. That is waste converted into fulfilled demand on the very same jumbo. So here I have added a reel of 35 centimeters, and watch what it does to the trim. The trim on this set is now 28, comfortably under my limit of 31, and that set is now included in the plan. We do exactly the same thing with the next set that needs it. The workflow is identical every time. So again, we click Add Reel and select the manual reel. And it is worth pausing on what is happening here, because this is the part a spreadsheet can never do. The algorithm gives you a strong starting plan in a second. Then the planner, who knows that a particular customer is waiting, or that a certain width always sells easily from stock, adjusts it, and every adjustment is instantly rechecked against the machine's physical limits. You get the speed of automation and the judgment of your best planner at the same time. There are guardrails on that too. My leftover decal here is 63 centimeters. If a user tries to add more than that, the system will not allow it, because the total decal width is a hard constraint. You physically cannot exceed the width of the machine, so the software will not let you plan as if you could. As well as adding reels, there is one more feature: creating a manual set. Sometimes an emergency order lands, or you want to produce reels to hold in your own inventory. For that, we click Insert Manual Line. Once we do, the system allows us to add the manual set, so an urgent requirement slots into today's schedule without abandoning the optimized plan you just built. It handles the exception without breaking the rule. You can take those widths from a sales order or select them manually, whichever suits the situation. The same protection applies. The system will not let the trim exceed the maximum wastage allowed. So here we define the reel widths accordingly, and the rule is checked as we type. So I define 120, then 80, then 130, 150, and one small reel of 40. Notice what I am doing: building a combination by hand, the way a planner would on paper, but with the machine's limits enforced live. Every width updates the total, and the moment it stops being feasible, the system says so. And that is exactly what happens if a reel width exceeds the maximum decal. If I add 150 here, the system tells me my allowable width is 451, but the widths I have defined total 500, and that exceeds the maximum decal. It does not silently accept an impossible cutting plan. It stops you at the point of entry and shows the numbers. The same applies if the trim exceeds your limit. The system will not generate that combination. So there is no route, manual or automatic, to a plan your machine cannot physically run. When we click Generate Manual Set, the system creates the manual set for us, validated against every rule. And there it is, the manual set, created. Now you can see there is still some trim on these: 19, 21, 25, 18, 31. So we click Create Side Cut. When we do, the system creates small reels out of that leftover width: 31, 21, 25, 28, 28. So how does it decide those sizes? Because this is the point where trim stops being waste and starts being product. You can see the result here: 31, 21, 25, and 28. So how were they created? My trim was over the limit, but it was still below the maximum wastage allowed. And in the manufacturing setup, we have already defined a minimum reel width. That single setup value is what makes the whole thing automatic. So the system takes that minimum reel width from your manufacturing setup and creates small reels from the leftover width, but only from sets whose wastage has not exceeded your maximum. And these small reels are not scrap. They can be sold on to paper plate manufacturers or to other customers, or used in-house. What was a cost line a moment ago becomes a second revenue stream. In-house, they become edge protectors or paper cores, value recovered from waste. Once everything is defined, we click Publish. The system publishes the Deckle schedule, but only the sets that qualify. Any set that did not meet your rules is deliberately left behind. Publishing is the gate between planning and production, and it is enforced. If the wastage is exceeded, the system will not allow that set into the Deckle combination at all. So what reaches your shop floor is only what met your efficiency standard. Now, to view the published Deckle schedule, we go to the Published Optimization list and click into the document. This is the general section, the permanent record of what you committed to produce. Machine Deckle size, the maximum number of sets, weight per set, total sets optimized, total scheduled weight, the maximum number of cuts, and the Deckle efficiency percentage. Then the Deckle Optimization line details, total quantity, total width, and the sales order line each one traces back to. And here you can see the production data. If a jumbo output or a real output has been posted against this Deckle schedule, you can see the details right here, so the planned and actual production stay connected in one place. Now we click into the set details. Here are the individual sets, the Deckle combination, the number of reels, the number of sets, total width, the trim, then the Deckle efficiency percentage, and the set weight. Everything an operator needs, on one screen. Here you see the set, the published set number, and the number of reels. That number is a hyperlink as well, so you can drill straight into each reel's weight and width. To produce the report, we click Cutting Plan, and the system generates it. This is a standard report, and it is customizable to your requirements. On it you get the customer details, the Deckle, the number of sets, the number of reels, total width in centimeters, trim in centimeters, total reel weight, the cuts, the diameter details, and the jumbo details. Everything the machine operator needs to run the schedule. So that is Deckle Optimization with Samadhan. Two things are worth underlining. First, the platform. Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central, a world-class ERP trusted globally. And on top of that, we have built the paper-specific capability your mill actually runs on. You are not buying a niche tool bolted onto the side of your business. Deckle Optimization is just one of those features. Alongside it, we have paper grading and quality management designed specifically for paper, not adapted from some other industry. Consumption recording, distributor management, vendor debit note settlement, commission management, and a great deal more besides. So on top of a world-class platform, we have built the features a paper business genuinely needs, and together they manage the whole cycle end-to-end, from sales right through to dispatch. One database, one version of the truth. And one more point, which matters especially if you are evaluating us from overseas. The Samadhan ERP software is certified by Microsoft. When we say certified, it means the software's hygiene and its underlying code have been checked by Microsoft themselves. So what you get is tried, tested, and validated. Samadhan is also a Microsoft SBD partner, which means your production and commercial data stays inside Microsoft's secure cloud, handled by a partner you can verify. Compliant, secure, and built for paper. If you would like to see Deckle Optimization running on your own order book, talk to the Samadhan team today.